Somewhere in the tropics right now, a wasp, smaller than a paperclip, is about to perform brain surgery. No scalpel, no anesthesia, and more precision than most surgeons will have in their entire career. Its target is a cockroach, nearly 6 times its size, fast enough to outrun a shoe and strong enough to kick its attacker clean across the room. None of that will matter in the next 60 seconds. In this video, you'll find out exactly how this wasp turns a fully conscious cockroach into a passenger inside its own body, why that cockroach almost never fights back even though it easily could, and what happens inside something that's being eaten alive for weeks while it's still standing on its own 6 legs. That wasp is Ampulex compressa, the emerald jewel wasp, barely 2 centimeters long, wrapped in metallic green and blue like a flying gem. And it doesn't win this fight with strength. It wins with chemistry. The attack starts with a sting into the roach's thorax, straight into the cluster of nerves that controls its front legs. The venom here floods the area with GABA and 2 other compounds that jam open chloride channels, shutting down those nerves in seconds. The roach's front legs go limp for 2 to 5 minutes. That's not the finishing move. That's just enough time for the wasp to line up its real target. Because the second sting doesn't go into muscle or nerve clusters in the body. It goes into the head, directly into the brain, and a structure called the subesophageal ganglion, threading the stinger through a tiny gap in the exoskeleton like a surgeon finding a vein on the first try. Researchers have mapped what's inside that venom. 264 different proteins, including a newly discovered family of peptides called ampulexins found nowhere else in nature. One of the most important ingredients is dopamine, injected straight into the roach's command center. And here's where things get strange before they get worse. That dopamine doesn't just calm the roach down. It sends it into 25 minutes of non-stop compulsive grooming, scrubbing its own body over and over as if some switch has been flipped. Scientists still aren't certain why, but the leading idea is unsettling in its own logic. A cleaner host means fewer microbes competing with the wasp's future offspring for the same body. Once the grooming stops, the real transformation sets in. It's called hypokinesia, and it isn't paralysis. The roach's legs still work perfectly. It can walk, run, even fly if something forces it to. What's gone is the will to start moving on its own. Left alone, it will simply stand there, doing nothing, for up to 10 days straight. Somehow, its body doesn't dry out or waste away during this time either. And even now, scientists don't fully understand how the venom manages to keep it hydrated while every ounce of self-preservation instinct has been switched off. This is the moment the wasp grabs one of the roach's antennae and starts walking. And the roach, an animal that could crush its captor with one twitch of its leg, simply follows, like a dog on a leash, all the way to a burrow the wasp has already prepared. Inside, the wasp lays a single egg on one of the roach's middle legs, then walks out and seals the entrance with pebbles and debris, entombing them both. When the egg hatches, the larva doesn't kill its host right away. It feeds carefully, avoiding the organs the roach needs to stay alive, keeping its meal fresh for as long as possible. For several weeks, a fully conscious cockroach lies inside a sealed chamber, while something eats it from the inside, one non-essential organ at a time, until there's nothing left to take. Only then does an adult wasp crawl out of the empty shell and fly off to find its own cockroach. So, is every cockroach doomed the second a jewel wasp shows up? Not quite. A researcher at Vanderbilt University tracked what happens when a roach sees the attack coming. If the wasp catches it completely off guard, the roach's odds of surviving the encounter drop to roughly 1 in 7. But a roach that spots the wasp early can kick, block, and sometimes fight it off entirely before the first sting ever lands. The horror story only plays out in full if the ambush works. An Ampulex compressor isn't even alone in this. It belongs to a genus of more than 130 wasp species, all built around some version of this same strategy, including one discovered in Southeast Asia and named Ampulex dementor after the soul-draining creatures from the Harry Potter books, because that's exactly what its sting appears to do to its victims. What you've just watched is one of the most surgically precise acts in the entire animal kingdom, carried out by something smaller than a coin, with more exactness than most operating rooms will ever see. Free will, it turns out, isn't something every animal gets to keep. Sometimes it's just one well-placed sting away from being switched off entirely.